Yellowstone Supervolcano jolted by 2.9 magnitude quake and 2.6 just 7 hours later. And we'll see it on the map. It's between Yellowstone Lake and Hebgen Lake. Hebgen, we know, is, well, both of these, of course, are at the northwest corner of Wyoming. It's Yellowstone Supervolcano. We know that the mantle plume, the magma, comes from Baja and goes right through Utah, where we've been having those earthquakes lately, starting with that 5.7 that came out of nowhere. And that plume goes directly from Baja into Utah, straight up into Yellowstone Supervolcano. And a couple of weeks back, we had that big quake in Baja, and then followed by the 5.7 in Utah. And we still have a quake swarm going on there. This is the Baja area, basically, and you can see that that mantle plume also goes to the west, feeding into Salton Sea, which is a volcanic area, going into the west towards Ridgecrest, which is another volcanic field, the Costa volcanic field, and into the west coast, the high threat volcanoes. Those are fed by the same mantle plume that feeds Yellowstone towards the east, up towards through Utah and into Yellowstone. Now, of course, when we had that Texas quake as well, that had also jolted Utah. And Utah, of course, 5.7 was close enough to Yellowstone, and it's on the same mantle plume anyway. And we would expect nearby faults to jolt because of that Utah's 5.7 quake. This is basically the area that was rattled, and we could see Yellowstone up there as well. But let's take a look at the map so you can see for yourselves what's going on. Berkeley, this was the second of the quakes. The first one was this one here. Okay, 2.9 at 8:45 UTC, 2:25. And then about 8 hours later, we had this one, 2.6. This is just the map of the quakes above 2.5. Let's put on the little ones as well, although it's going to make things a little bit more difficult to see. But you'll see the activity with the little ones as well. There we go. And you can see that that whole area is, of course, active. Salt Lake City still has its earthquake swarms, as we can see. They're getting smaller, thank goodness. And even southern Utah as well. We know, we saw before, let's take, well, let's keep on. Utah has eight volcanoes right along that line. Utah has 8 volcanoes, and right along that fracture line, and this is Baja down there. The west arm of the mantle plume goes this way. The east arm goes up this way, as we saw on the map before, right through Utah, right through, and those 8 volcanoes in Utah. Of course, New Mexico also has the the Valles volcano. Okay, it's a super volcano, it's a caldera, and we have the Long Valley, Mammoth Lakes' Long Valley supervolcano of the caldera here. Okay, that's a supervolcano, that's a supervolcano, that's a supervolcano. And here you have 8 volcanoes together, 8 in that line. The latest eruption from what we saw from Volcano Discovery a couple of videos back was 660 years ago. So those are pretty young. And as we know, Salt Lake is a landfill lake. It's Salt Lake and Utah Lake, basically, where it looked like as if they were one lake. Let's go tick this off. Okay, go back to the bigger ones. All right, that'll take a few seconds. Okay, there we go. So, Provo. Okay, that area here and Utah Lake, those were all just one at one point, and it's landfilled, just like Lake Tahoe in a couple of million years would be filled. But that's soft. That area there is very soft sediment because of that reason. Salt Lake City. And the Mormon temple, as we know, had the spire damaged, and the statue on top of the spire has been damaged because of that. So here we are at Yellowstone. So we know that there's a mantle plume going from there. This is Yellowstone Lake. And this is Hebgen Lake. That Z-looking thing is Hebgen Lake. What is that? It's just something. Okay. This is where we had our earthquakes today. and the swarm that we saw before. This is the area of it, Yellowstone Lake, Hebgen Lake, and we know that we've had a lot of northwest of the park earthquakes lately, and even hot spots around there. We found the new hot spot, the geothermal area, was found around here somewhere. The one that they took images of, and they found was getting bold, and they found trees that were fallen. Their trunks that were on the ground were charcoaled, and the ones that were facing the sky were regular. So you can understand how hot the ground was at that point right there. And this is our area of our quakes. Now this is Madison River. From there we have that river going into Hebgen Lake. This is a river that flows into Hebgen Lake that has a lot of geyser water streaming through there and emptying into Hebgen Lake, and that's we said before in the video before this one on Yellowstone that the geysers also spout out arsenic in that water, and there's a lot of arsenic going into Hebgen Lake. That's where you have a lot of beautiful little hotels around there for vacationers, and they go, let's go into our aerial, and they go fishing there. They go fishing there. I don't know if you can see them from here, but they're all over there. Hebgen Lake, that's Hebgen Lake. Okay. Hebgen Lake was where we had our 7.3 magnitude earthquake, August 17 of 1959, if you remember. That was a very big earthquake that caused landslides and an uplift of a fault about 40 feet, and closing up one area, causing the Quake Lake, what they say is Quake Lake. So this is something that the geologists are wary of, because we're talking about a supervolcano here, and the magma chamber is not a small size, it's big. So whenever they have quakes, they're afraid of them, even nearby quakes, because of the fact that the roof of the chamber is so huge that it can crack with an earthquake, obviously. Now, this thing as well has, the caldera is this big. As you can basically see, it's the form of the mountains. And the lake is on the southeastern part of the caldera. It's this big. And about 3 miles down, you have the lava. Now, these earthquakes here, this one was about 3 is 5 kilometers. It's about 10 miles down. It's about 10 miles down. And this one is shallower. It's about 3-4 miles down. 4 people just reported that, feeling that one. And I don't think anybody reported this one. But even though this one was stronger, I guess they just forgot. But anyway, that's our results today in Yellowstone. And I would think it's expected. We expected this because of what we had a few days ago in that line in Utah here. That was a big earthquake. I think they took it off. They take the quakes off. After a few days, they take the big ones off, unfortunately. But the 5.7 was around here. Then they had very strong earthquakes after that as well. So obviously, this is the area that shook all of this. And whenever we have a quake, it also shakes up Yellowstone when that's that close. Of course, we also had that huge quake back in Kamchatka of the 7.5, 7.8. Oh, they still have that booked here. Is that the one? 7.5, yes. I don't think they have the shake map for that. But I would venture to, oh yeah, let's see, okay. Okay, but obviously earthquakes that big are felt worldwide. And this one was felt all the way down to Japan. if you extend, unfortunately, they only have that block, but you can see what's going on there. Okay, I mean, you can see the frequency. I mean, it's just, by the time this thing stops shaking, it must be like all the way around here. And I think I'm underestimating. Obviously, this was a very big quake. It's almost 8 magnitude, and you do feel it here, around here as well. Just like Yellowstone increased in quake swarms when we had the Denali, Alaska quake, and Yellowstone also increased in quake swarms when we had, and also Long Valley Caldera, when we had the Haiti quake, and when we had the Ridgecrest quake 20 years ago in 1990, 1990, yeah. Earthquake, that was a 7.1 again, and again, earthquake swarms in Yellowstone, just like the Ridgecrest earthquake we had last year. Again, no, not 1999, when was it, 1990? 1999, and 2019, again, 7.1 earthquake in Ridgecrest, shaking and giving more of a quake swarm in Yellowstone. But this is expected because of what we're having there. So they took the big one off from Utah, but they didn't take the big one off from Texas. Remember this one? Mentone, Texas, and the quake swarm is going on there still. Okay, almost 2,000 people. Let's go for fun, see the shaking and the aerial. And again, they just stop at a certain square. And obviously, it shook the Valles Caldera. It shook Utah, and I would venture to say it must have shaken. There's Yellowstone right there. There's Utah Lake. There's Salt Lake right there, and there's Utah right there. There's there's Yellowstone right there. So you can understand from the intensity of the shaking, it must have gone all the way up there as well. So there's been a couple of strong quakes in this area that have shaken Yellowstone as well, which is normal. Obviously, it's going to shake with all this activity there. Okay, so I'll leave links below for you for this. Thank you. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.